Hi everyone, welcome back. Previous video, Bella come and jumped on my lap, so thought I'd have her here again. Just things coming to mind about things about school again. Lots of things happened in my school that affected my life, really had an impact on me. It's a matter of which one next. I suppose one thing I often talk to school kids about, something that is almost forgotten about these days and not understood. So one of the reasons I like to talk about one is kids find it fascinating, and certainly a lot of them go home, those who have parents who are a little bit older, and talk to their parents about what used to happen to them. I was scared of getting the cane. So those who don't understand the cane, there was a bit of rattan or bamboo. They'd have a piece like, some of the teachers would have a cabinet, and in the cabinet you'd open the cabinet up and, I wouldn't open the cabinet up, but look in the cabinet, and they'd have long ones and short ones, and some were skinny and some weren't so skinny, probably about the thickness of one of your fingers, and some of them a bit skinnier than that. And some teachers would let you choose which one that you wanted. And there used to be debate amongst our students about which one hurt the least, but I think most of it depended on the technique of the teacher. So quite interesting, an older friend of mine, my mentor when I first started teaching, a guy, wonderful maths teacher called Ernie. Used to ring up Ernie all hours of the night, and well, not necessarily late at night, but many nights, and talk to him, and he'd advise me. I remember talking to me once about how do I teach factorization of quadratic equations, or quadratics, or even just go back to binomials, and he talked through, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, and once he finished talking through the different methods, he'd talk about the advantages, disadvantages, or what he'd seen, and which one he'd prefer. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a stick for me still every time I teach it, all these years later. Ernie was just amazing. So go back to what I was talking about. Ernie was the one who taught me about how teachers would train to give the cane. That I understand of, even all those years ago, not anyone was just allowed to pick up a cane and apply it to students when they were naughty. So what would happen with Ernie, he said that they'd get a piece of chalk. Back when we had blackboards instead of whiteboards, you'd have a chalk in a packet, and the chalk would be about this long. And you'd put the chalk, this is what Ernie was telling me about, onto a desk. And when the teacher was training to use the cane, they'd have to break the chalk or hit the chalk off the desk with the cane. So when people talk about the really canes, when the cane hits you, it really hurts. Apparently when that cane hits the desk, it also really hurts the person practicing. So the teachers would practice, and they'd bring it right back, bring it across, and try to hit the chalk. So often in lining up, they'd miss it, and then they'd miss it, and then they'd hit it, till they learnt the accuracy and where to get it from. So what would happen is then they'd get, as Ernie would say it, they'd get the half that was left over, piece this long, sit on the edge of the desk, so it wasn't as much hanging off. So then they'd practice for that one to get more accurate, and they'd break it in half. Then they break the quarter, being theoretical. They get a smaller piece and put it on the desk. So it's only a little bit hanging off the edge of the desk. And they get that and they snap it until they could have a little bit hanging off the desk, and they could just very accurately go and flick that little bit of chalk off the desk. Now what I didn't understand until Ernie explained to me, and made me flash back to what happened to me, is if you hold your fingers up like that, that middle finger sticks out that much more than the others. So one of the techniques it sounds very brutal. I was the receiver of it. I can talk about it. In fact, I'm not espousing to go and give the cane anymore, but it certainly taught me a lesson in respect. So when you hold your hand up, anyone holds their hand up, you can see how much that middle finger sticks out beyond the others. So it just sticks out that little bit. And the goal was, when the student put their hand out, that they'd aim at that little bit of a finger there. So now it gets to me, Year 10 Science. I'm sitting there in the science lab with all my mates around me. For some reason, it really seems weird these days, but the Bunsen burner was turned on. We weren't allowed to turn Bunsens on until things were ready, but for some reason, the Bunsen burner was running. Had a wonderful teacher again, wonderful science teacher called Mrs. Lee. Had her for 3 years, and she was terrific. She was so good. And so she was talking away about something, and I was sitting there, and in my pencil case, I had a little Kent's pencil case, little metal tin pencil case you'd open up, and it'd have compasses, protractors, set squares, little rulers and all bits and pieces in there, spare lead and all sorts of things. But I had kept a piece of magnesium from a previous science class. I don't know why. Maybe it was just a little bit, it was left over one day and I just decided to pop it in there. Skinny little piece of magnesium. I've looked it up on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and you look up the burning of magnesium, you'll see what I mean by it. So it's a little piece of it, and it takes a little bit to light it, but I'm sitting there fiddling with it. One of my mates said, while the teacher was talking, he said, my nickname is Squidge. I went, burn it, Squidge, burn it, burn it, burn it. And I went, nah, don't be silly. And he kept on, burn it, burn it. I went, nah, don't be silly, I'll get in trouble. And him and then the others started, and they pestered me about it and pestered. Finally, I don't know why I had it, but yeah, I didn't know why, it was a bit of fun. The biros, there's where you write with the ink. I'd melted one of my biros down till it was about this long, and I used to write with it. Pretty crazy, but that's what I did. And for some reason I put the magnesium, stuck it into there, and decided to hold it over the Bunsen burner and the flame. Next thing, it lit up. Oh my goodness, I knew I was in trouble. Why do we do these dumb things? It was dumb. It was just so dumb. So it lit up. Of course, it was like, my goodness. If you go if you go watch it on YouTube, you'll see. I looked it up recently. It's almost like one of those sparklers on Krakenite, or when you can light it up and it just goes berserk. So this thing went berserk, and I'm in trouble. And my first reaction was to hide it. So I put it under the bench, and I held it under the bench, and I could hear it fizzing and carrying on. So this is dumb, but it could have been dangerous. Could have burnt myself pretty bad. But I pulled it out under the desk, and I'm trying to blow it out, as if blowing it out would make any difference. And my father had always taught me to be honest. Rob, just tell the truth. If you don't tell the truth, you're not a man. A man is a man. He tells the truth, owns up for what he did wrong, and just takes his lumps. Just admit to what you did wrong. Tell the truth. Don't hide it. In the long run, you're better to tell the truth. Even if you get into trouble, just tell the truth. So I challenge boys about that all the time. So finally, Mrs. Lee goes, I think she said, Mr. Prestwidge, what are you doing? Oh my goodness, I'm reliving my memories. And I grab this thing out, and bog-eyed little kid holds it up and goes like this. And this thing's burning in my hand. I don't know if I was getting little bits burned off it, I don't know. And oh my goodness, I didn't try to hide it, that's what I did. So Mr. Lee says, go to the back of the room. So I went to the back of the science lab, and I'm standing at the back, and I'm going, oh my goodness, that's all that's happened. I was so relieved that I wasn't in trouble. I'd stand there and see her at lunchtime. She'd tell me how bad I was, and I'd admit I was sorry, not fake. I would have just said, I'm sorry, it was really dumb, it was really stupid. It's something I ask school kids to say, and my grandkids to say all the time now. So I'm standing there at the back, and she says, no. And I saw this, I saw her mouth. I hear her voice going, and she says, go to Mr. James now. Oh my goodness. Mr. James is the head of science. He had a reputation for caning hard. Not the hardest. We'll talk about that another time. But I went around to his office, and there was a boy in trouble with him, and I'm standing outside his office waiting. And so all I remember is like watching some movie of Arnold Schwarzenegger with the smoke coming off his head, and not his head, but his boss's head, I think it was. And this head of science is going off at this boy and telling him how stupid he was, and I'm standing there going, oh my goodness, I'm next. So then he belts him with the cane, a couple on each hand, and off the boy goes, and then it's my turn. So he calls me in, and he says, what did you do? And I told him straight, wouldn't lie about it, no way, I just won't lie about it, just told him straight. And I looked at him, I said, I had some magnesium that I kept from another class. I put it in my pen, and I stuck it over the fire over the Bunsen burner until it lit up. Oh my goodness. I can remember his mouth, watching his mouth going, just looking at him. And he's lectured me about how stupid I'd been. didn't ask me how stupid I'd been, I don't think, just told me how stupid I'd been. And he went at me for a while, and I'm sort of waiting. I'm thinking, is that it? Is that all that's going to happen? He's just going to get angry at me. I didn't like it. Didn't like getting into trouble. So anyway, then he says, put your hand out. So I put my left arm out. And I had no idea what he's now explained to me. I didn't know what was coming. Sorry, I got a laugh. It is funny. Looking back at it. So he goes to cane me and he pulls it right back. My goodness. And he flicks it right over. He's about my height now, I reckon, but he might have been taller. I'm short. So he was fairly short. And he missed me. I just didn't understand what was happening. Anyway, the next shot, he got me. Oh my goodness. I cannot exaggerate enough about what it was like. Right in front of him, he must, I don't know if he was laughing inside going, this poor kid, but he showed no mercy. Or maybe he was showing mercy in that he was teaching me a lesson. So I remember I had a look. I thought the end of my middle finger was gone. I literally thought that he'd ripped the end of my little finger off. There's no exaggeration here. So I looked at the end of my finger, and to my surprise, that little bit on the end wasn't gone. The pain was beyond comprehension. I know to this day, in his mind he went, I'm going to teach this boy a lesson he'll never forget. And here I am, nearly 65, and this happened to me when I was 15, 16. So it's 50 years ago, and I still talk about it like it was yesterday. I know kids love hearing about it. So, and he went, cannot believe this, he said that one didn't count. Oh my goodness, that one didn't count. He put his arm right back again and he belted me. Oh my. The first one hurt, like it's been ripped off. This was different. This was right across my hand there. Then he gave me another one, and I'm thinking it's over. I reckon if I could get a video of it, it'd be such a laugh. There'd be pity from people, be horror from people, but also if we can get over that and have a look, it'd be a laugh. This little boy had his eyes bogging out of his head. I reckon the blood drained from my face. I'd never felt any pain like it in my life. I had mates who got the cane all the time, and they used to toughen up their hands and brag about how many times they had 12 cuts of the cane. Anyway, then he said other arm, and I went, here we go again. Put this arm out. I was probably I was shaking or trembling like crazy, and he did show me mercy, I think, on that hand. He just gave me 2 belts of the cane on that hand, and they were pretty solid. He said something like, don't be stupid again, and maybe he said, you need to learn your lesson from this and get back to class. So I went back to class, and you walk in the class, and I couldn't stop my hands from trembling. They were just trembling. And I looked at my hands, and there was what we call welts across my hand, where there's 2 red marks. I don't think they're really welts, but 2 red marks across each hand where he'd hit them, and the flesh was reacting to it. And so I couldn't stop my hands from trembling. So I walked in the class with both my hands in my pocket. And you got to act tough. My goodness, it was a rough school. It was said to be the roughest school in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Said to be the roughest school, and from everything I understand it was. That's another lot. But anyway, I walked back in the class with my hands in my pocket, and all my mates went, ooh. So anyway, I went through. I don't know, was it between recess and lunch, or was it before recess? I don't know, but let's say it all happened at 12 o'clock in the day. I still remember at the end of the day when I got home, I'd hidden my hands in my pocket the whole time, except of course at the ride home on the bike, and I can't remember that particularly hurting, but it did. And when I got home, my hands were still trembling. That's how much of effect it had. So yeah, there's lots I could talk about from it. One was the principle, like I keep talking about, of just saying what happened. No rubbish. Just say what happened. Just tell it as is. I got the consequences for it. My dad always said, take your consequences. Be a man, take the lumps. And, they take your consequences for what you did. Little fire, ashes all around me. Yeah, a great lesson in life that I just learned from, and thought it was a very important moment in my life, learning just to take things, and I'd always owned up, but yeah, this was a whole different kettle of fish, seeing what happened to me. Nice talking to you, nice being able to tell this all again. Hope you've enjoyed it. More are coming to mind. Have a great day. Bye.